Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Adam Dorsey, a psychologist in Silicon Valley, and I am the host of Super Psyched, a podcast dedicated to supercharging your life. Each episode contains fun, high-quality interviews with experts looking at psychology from all angles. Super Psyched is your tool to get more of what you want in your life and less of what you don't. I'll admit it. I spent a lot of my youth fantasizing about being a rock star. You know, singing with the car stereo and imagining being on stage. It was my dream. I'm guessing I wasn't alone. I imagine you have probably fantasized about being a rock or pop star at least once in your life. But what's it actually like to be a rock star? What goes into writing major hit songs? As it happens, today's guest knows firsthand, and he is super generous and straightforward in sharing his story. Greg Camp is best known as the former lead guitarist and primary songwriter for Smash Mouth. He wrote All Star, Walking on the Sun, Then the Morning Comes, and nearly everything Smash Mouth released, leading to sales in the millions and bringing Smash Mouth to gold and platinum status, causing them to tour all over the globe. Although Greg left the band some time ago, music and sound remain front and center in his life. He continues to write brilliant music for himself, other musicians like the Jonas Brothers and Chainsmokers, as well as for movies. You can find links to some of these in the show notes, and I highly recommend you give them a listen. In the meantime, listen in as Greg and I have a lively, fun, and intimate discussion about life as a rock star. Greg Camp, welcome to Super Psyched.
It is very, very good to be here, Adam. And nice to see you and hear you. And it's been, I don't know.
7 years, man.
Yeah. But we still keep in touch a little bit here and there and poke each other.
We do. And we poke each other, and you've turned me on to some really good music over the years. And it's just been so much fun. I mean, just a little background for the listener. I've known Greg since we were in high school. I remember him playing guitar at a level that was actually terrifying. The next best guitarist was probably, and I'm not exaggerating, 10 years behind you, in my estimation. And there was no question that if anybody in my circle was going to, hit the stratosphere and become a rock star, it was going to be you. And I was just so excited. I was telling you behind the scenes that I remember you playing with a band called The Scam, and one of the first bands I'm guessing you were even in, and playing guitar solos, and then watching you kind of go through a U2 phase where you were actually singing really well. And then you were in the Heroic Airmen, and then, as time progressed, you and Paul were living, I guess, together, and this kind of kismet moment came where the four of you created the band that everybody now knows, Smash Mouth. And it's my belief that a large percentage of men and probably women have dreamed of being rock stars at some point in their life. I know it was my ongoing fantasy, and I did I tried to do a Google search to see what percentage of humans dream of that life. And I couldn't find any answers. I tried to put out an informal poll on Facebook, and most people agreed, yes, that's something I still think about. But it actually happened for you. And I'm wondering, when you were a boy practicing guitar, did you fantasize about being a rock star?
Absolutely. I would always make these funny little recordings, before we had track recordings, like 4 tracks and stuff like that. I would go from tape deck to tape deck, and I'd have a song that I would record. And it was probably at that point a cover song, but I would go back and dub in my own voice going, to make it sound like there's an audience. So,
kind of egging you on.
Yeah, and I always thought about that, or I thought about that often when I was actually finally got there and was on a stage, and the real sound of an audience is just, mind blowing. It's to have that much power, so many voices yelling at you or singing the words to your songs. It's humbling and just kind of mind blowing.
Wow. And I'm guessing, and we'll get to what it was like to be on stage. And I'm guessing as a kid, when you were doing that, I'm guessing that was a guilty pleasure, something you didn't really share with other people.
Oh, I'm sure I didn't. Yeah. I would do it before parents came home from work, and kid, my brother and sister off playing or something like that, I'd be like, no one's looking. I'm going to play Rockstar now. I'm going to grab my tennis racket and get in front of the mirror and practice my moves, my jumps,
Oh my God. And we all did that, but did you actually have a sense that maybe this could happen for you at some point in your life? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, wow, that's fantastic. So what was the reality like of, busting through, creating a hit song, you're on stage with a whole bunch of people, and it's a whole new life. You're touring. Did it live up to the fantasy?
Oh yeah. Definitely. When the whole thing first happened, of course it was like, wow, this is unbelievable. I hoped this would happen, but I never really, I don't think anyone's really prepared if it's to that extreme, And I'm not saying that we are like U2 or Lady Gaga or anything like that, but from our humble beginnings, in little old San Jose and playing in, Boswell's and playing at these small little, venues and stuff like that, to step out on a stage, opening for U2 and in front of that audience. And you're just like, I think I may have like gotten a car accident and died, and this is just a dream, or I'm in purgatory or something, that this can't be happening. It was just you're not prepared really,
And to your point, you were playing in Boswell's, which is a bar in a local shopping center. You were playing, I believe, with the Gents for a very long time. And it wasn't like this happened overnight when you were just a kid. You were sticking it out until you were 30. Perhaps. Like really talk about that.
Well, the story goes, it's like I was, believe into my second week of my senior year in high school. And I had worked all summer with a bunch of artists and musicians, at a framing place with Frank Kelly
totally
Castro.
Remember that.
And, he went back to high school, and I was like, I don't really want to go back to that life. It's like, I feel like I've just in a few months of being with all these older people and artistic and creative people that didn't really exist at our high school. It wasn't really like that. You weren't almost like you weren't allowed to be like that there.
Totally.
And, there was a small group of, musicians and artists and stuff like that at Limbrick. But for the most part, it was just a lot of just regular old teenagers, football players and, your different categories of kids. But I just didn't feel like I was fitting in there anymore. And so, I told my mom, I think I don't want to go to college. I really want to just go full board into music and just, just drown myself in that life. I was in a band with people that were in their 20s, and I was playing nightclubs at 17 and 18 years old. And I just didn't feel like I wanted to be around people my age anymore.
You were done.
Yeah. And I did read something somewhere, and I can't remember which guitarist said this, but he's like, always surround yourself with people that are way better than you. Don't, so of course we all need a teacher, but, but don't be the teacher, be the student. Get with people that are leagues above you, And so that's what I did. And after a while, my mom finally just kind of gave up, and she said, you know what? I think you might have something here. Go do it. And so when I got that green light, I just never stopped,
I love that idea of be with people who are better than you. And I imagine initially it's intimidating, and it obviously ups your game. Can you describe the process of perhaps going from intimidation to actually joining at that level?
Well, I think that if there's anything precious about you, that goes away, quickly. You toughen up, you really need to be slapped around a little bit, and yeah, I guess like what they like, take your knocks or whatever, and just kind of learn, look at them and learn. And the one thing I wish I would have paid more attention to is the business side of it, but I'm still not interested in it. I'm interested in the music, and but that these days, that is a big, huge part of it. And so when I do talk to kids that are learning and stuff like that, I go, do about half and half. Get good at your craft, but people don't just hand you money anymore. You got to go get it.
Right.
So
that's a really good advice. And kind of the ethos that was circulating, in addition to kind of conformity in our high school, where you probably wouldn't be able to realize who you were fully. It was kind of looked down upon to look at money grubbing and art. So I'm guessing that part of you might have even conformed to that idea of like, nah, in order to be a true artist, I can't go with money.
Exactly. Yeah. Back then, I mean, when's the last time you heard the term yuppie?
Exactly. 80s.
You remember, like, we were
totally.
Like, yuppie. They were the enemy.
They were the enemy.
I'll never be that, but now it's like, if you want to survive, you have to have some business, some marbles,
Totally. To your point, one of my favorite axioms is you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Like that one?
I do. That's a good one today, Adam.
But it kind of jives with what you were talking about. Like, go with Michael Jordan, play with him, be less good than he is, but it will up your game.
Totally. Yeah, if you can be anywhere near that, you're going to be okay. Anywhere near it,
And I love that you said you had to kind of deal with getting knocked around a little bit. Can you tell us the story about getting knocked around?
Well, I mean, I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but if you're going to spend time trying to make money, you should probably spend time trying to make money doing something related to what you want to do when you grow up, Totally. And so playing in cover bands and things like that isn't the best thing for your pride. It is a little, I don't know. But we all got so much better. And for those of us that walked out of Boswell's and onto a stage with U2 or something like that, we never would have been nearly that good if we hadn't done all that,
all the covers.
Stuff. You're right. And I mean, that's one little element of that.
That makes sense.
I think the other one is like writing songs and turning those songs into either your bandmates or someone higher up, an A&R person at Island Records or something like that, and having them just go, come back when you have something good, or,
dude.
In my case, like even like after we had gotten a record deal and like, walking into Jimmy Iovine's office with, him sitting there on the couch with this hat pulled down to here, like with his arms
over his eyes,
with his arms folded.
And by the way, for the listener, he's looking a little bit kind of hostile.
Sorry. Yeah,
no problem.
And, he'd put the songs on, and he'd turn it up so loud that you couldn't talk over it. And he would only turn it down when he would say, "Where's the fucking chorus?" Turn it back up, turn it back down. What are you, get out of here. Come back when you have something, And I mean, that's like another extreme of taking your knocks, like basically the owner of your life at that point is telling you that you suck,
Totally. He's the gatekeeper.
Like, right.
And it's a little bit hostile, a little bit intimidating, cranking up the volume, making you feel about, an inch tall.
Oh yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
You just had to power through that.
Just stuff like that, There was some other stuff. I remember like some people at the record company would say things like, so how does it feel to have won the lottery?
Oof,
he's like, because basically, you're no better than anyone else out there. It's just that you were in the right place at the right time with the right people behind you. There are probably like, 1,000 other people within a mile of here that are better than you at what you do. And so constantly being knocked down and like put in your place, you can do two things with that. You can either just go, shit, I suck, I'm just going to go get a job, go get a regular job, or you can say, oh yeah, watch this, and then you turn in a record that has 3 singles on it and they're like, okay, that works.
And it's amazing how they would minimize you, knock you down, and make as if that you were nothing special, that you would come by this by happenstance instead of by real hard work. The hours of sweat that you put in to getting good. I mean, I think about the Beatles, and Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hours that it takes to become an expert, and the hours of just slogging it out, playing at bars where they might not pay you actually. And I read somewhere in some books that, band members would maybe walk off with something from the bar if they hadn't been paid, perhaps breakfast for the next morning or something bigger. And there was just I imagine a lot of wind at your front at times.
Uh-huh. That's definitely it. But you either, like I said, you go one or two ways. If you're persistent and you have that sort of perseverance, it's like that's important.
So how did you maintain confidence in the face of all of the challenges that you faced along the way towards getting a signing?
Well, I mean, any artist is going to tell you that they don't have confidence. They have low self-esteem, low self-confidence, and it's true, because you're constantly second guessing yourself if someone's telling you you're not good, or that's not good enough, or why can't you just write another all-star? Why can't you just do that again? Like, I wish I knew why I can't, I wish I knew that. If I knew that, I would do it over and over, but I don't know. It's like any artist is going to be, self-conscious about everything and second guessing and all that stuff.
So let's go to the creative process, man. I'm just wondering, first off, what is the favorite song that you've written so far?
I don't know.
Might be hard, huh?
That's a hard one. I mean, I have there are some deep cut Smash Mouth stuff that I really like that never really got a lot of notice. I still am very proud of a lot of those, but some of them you probably maybe you will never hear. But,
which song comes to mind at the moment?
Well, I mean, I'm talking about like some more recent stuff. It's like I'm pretty into like the more recent stuff. Since Smash Mouth that I've written that at some point will see the light of day in some way. A lot of times I'll just keep these things like it's kind of a nest egg. I keep them for film and TV. Keep them in a little folder.
Got it. Not released.
Yeah.
I feel you. Well, I have listened to some of your recent music. One that just dropped 2 weeks ago that was featured, I think you mentioned in Kissing Booth, that mega Netflix film. Is that correct? Yeah,
Kissing Booth 2. So I'm worked on Kissing Booth 1, 2, and 3. 3 is going to be out later. But Kissing Booth 2 just came out, and I did a song for a scene where she's running through the airport looking for her love who's about to fly away forever.
Is that the song we were talking about?
Yeah, the song's called Closer.
That's what I thought. And your wife sings background, and it takes my breath away. The two of you together are amazing.
Oh man, thank you. Yeah, we do a lot of music together. But I mean, the story behind that song, it was just a little 30-second thing, and people started going crazy with the song, and it wasn't listed in the credits, and it wasn't even a real song. It was just kind of part of the score. And so, with all these people, fans of the film, looking for the song, and Shazam calling me, and Apple Music, and they're like, "What is this thing?" And I'm like, "Oh!" And so I had to like go back to my cave and like make it a real song. Like finish it basically and record it right and mix it, master it, and then you have to go through a lot of things like to get it, to put it out there on Spotify and Apple Music, and so now it's out there for people.
Yeah, it looks like it just dropped on September 1st, and I'll include it in the show notes. It's an incredible song, and there is a lot of instrumental music that you've done, including Stripped and others, and you seem to just genre bend. You don't sit in a box. You go all over the place. You seem to adore music itself.
Yeah. I'm sure that you remember this in high school. It's like you had to fall into a category in high school.
Totally.
What are you, a mod? Are you
exactly?
A rocker? Are you in the ska? Are you in a reggae? Are you a dirt head?
Exactly.
Are you a soc? Are you a jock? And my friends would they would kind of give me a little bit of guff about even like the way you dress. It's like you're wearing an Izod shirt, with the collar popped, but you're wearing Vans. That doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
Back then, it didn't make sense. I'm like, why? And the music was the same way for me. It's like if it was good, it was good. I didn't care.
And I love that about you. I love that about your music, and I love that about your sense of fashion and the lifestyle choices you've made. You skate to this day. You're wearing a Thrasher shirt. You you played ska punk, but yet I know you were more than happy to riff off of anything Van Halen related. You just would go for anything. Don't know if I've already cited this, but when you played "Don't Tell Me You Love Me" as a sophomore in high school, that guitar solo, I played it for my sophomore aged son, and we were just like, yeah, he actually played that at 16. You just didn't care. It seems, and you really wanted to find your own artistic truth. Up until recently, I didn't realize that Astro Lounge and I can't pronounce it quite well, but Funk You Man, both of those covers, I love the design. And lo and behold, I read in Paul's book, Walking on the Sun, Paul Delisle. What a great book, and what a fun book to read. You designed those things. You designed those covers.
Right. Yeah. I mean, back then it's like if you get a record deal and they say they give you 100% creative control, which is a lie. By the way.
Oh, it's not true.
Well, I mean, they give you 100% creative control, but they still have to they have to okay everything you do.
I see what you mean.
So it's 100%. You can
it's
say
100% with a wink and an asterisk.
Yeah. And so they basically take your idea and realize it and make it better looking, and stuff. So, I mean, yeah, the concepts and stuff like that were always ours, but, they always gave it to their art department to take over. And,
I love the artwork, and it goes so perfectly.
You know who had a hand in the first record is Dino Passanisi.
Come on.
Yeah. The album cover, it's like, here's what I want. I want a photo of us in my old 62 Ford Falcon wagon with all of our gear on top of it, because that's what it looked like when we went to go play a gig. But I want us to be flying through space. Can you make that happen? And so he actually did the cover.
So that's incredible. That's incredible. So somebody with whom we went to high school, I had no idea, had a hand in creating that just most iconic artwork for Astro Lounge, which, by the way, is an album I listen to a lot. Even if I didn't know you, it would be one of my favorite albums. It has every song on it is amazing. I mean, every song on it is just pure perfection. It was my regular take my son to drive to school song. I know that when you actually finished writing All Star, according to Paul's book, you raced over, found him, and played it for him, and apparently had literally played all the parts in the song. You sung it. And I'm wondering, what went into writing that song?
So, I mean, that is a product of my my meeting with Jimmy Iovine and another A&R at Interscope Records, Tom Wally, where they were just like, we turned Astro Lounge in finished, and they're like, well, you have your third single, which is a cover, but you don't have a first or second single. We can't release your record. So back to your drawing board you go. And so I was so I was pissed,
I imagine,
because I thought we as a band and with the producer Eric Valentine turned in a masterpiece, and it's what it is, what you hear now, only it didn't have All Star or Then the Morning Comes on it.
The two biggest songs.
And so those two songs were written in probably as many days, like 2 days. And I was looking for Paul, and Paul was at one of our favorite little drinking spots called the 100 in Santa Cruz. And I'm like, where are you? He's like, I'm at the 100. And I'm like, stay there. I got to play something for you. And at that point, I believe it was a cassette. And we walked out to his car and we popped it in. And I'm like, am I crazy, or is that a hit? And I think he just went, holy shit, dude, And so that was that. Yeah, they were fully realized and fully finished songs, and totally executed and produced in a demo sort of fashion. And so we just basically took those recordings and went to Eric Valentine's studio and put some real drums on it and had Steve sing on it, and the rest of it is mostly the demo. that you're hearing.
That is crazy. And it's as if you touched the hand of God with regard to creativity in that moment. And is there an environment you try to create for yourself to get really into that space? Like, how do you conjure that up?
Back then I was still, I liked to do everything in a garage. I was like, that was my creative space. I still do. I still work in a garage. And it's just like, you still kind of feel like a grit,
Yeah, totally.
Spiders and vermin, and, it's dirty and it's hot. And I like still feeling that, there's just something comfortable and real about being in an environment like that. And so, I could never be creative in a real sterile recording studio space. There's nothing creative about it to me. And so I like to either drive or be in a dirty garage.
That's perfect, dude. And about how long do you think it took you to realize the song?
The song, I think I started kind of like thinking about it on my way home from LA, because I was pissed. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to look at the charts and see what's out there. All right, this is what people are listening to right now. Okay. And so I kind of just sort of put myself in that mindset, which was sort of a pop mindset, and then just added, or I don't even know if I added, but I think I more or less added the pop element to the snotty, edgy Smash Mouth thing that was already there, and I just made it a little more poppy,
And here you were kind of pissed off listening to the other music, and you come up with one of the most positive songs ever written, like a song that pumps people up beyond belief. It's almost like an antidepressant in sonic waves. It's just that good.
Right. Well, I mean, All Stars, it ended up being sort of an anti-bully vibe. And the first line of that song comes from people basically saying, "You'll never make it. Why don't you go get a real job?" And in a real job, what I mean by real job is like the kind of job that you're supposed to have, like a 9-to-5 job where you clock in every day and you have a boss.
Totally.
And, the first line of that song came from something that an ex-girlfriend said, pretty much word for word, like
the world's going to roll you.
Yeah. You're, this is a pipe dream. And, she even used the L on the forehead thing.
Come on.
And that's kind of where that came from. And so when I came home from LA after being belittled by the Interscope empire, that's what that same feeling came back to me. And I was like, gosh, man, I was like, why do people have to, why can't they be a little nicer the way they,
yeah. Why do you have to hate?
Yeah. And so I just started thinking about it, and I'm sure like a lot of things came to mind, like especially when we were in school. And if you weren't, I mean, you're a big dude, so you probably didn't yeah, just like, I mean, I wasn't really bullied that much. I can't say that I was, but I did have a lot of friends that were, like I was friends with the nerds and I was friends with the jocks. I was kind of friends with everybody.
You were.
The people in the drama department and the nerds and all those people used to get hassled by different, groups of people. And so I do remember that. And in 1999, when All Star was written, bullying wasn't even really a word yet. Like, I mean, it wasn't like a household thing that everyone was concerned with yet, but I knew it was a thing. And so I definitely wanted to respond to some of the fan mail that we were getting, where, everyone hates me for liking your band, or my brother is beating me up daily, or my father is like hitting me, or I'm being abused, or blah, blah, blah. And so, that the song is a product of all that, all the different things.
All of the meanness. The story that blew my mind, in addition to All Star, is that the creative process means throwing away so many things. I've heard that for every joke a comedian tells, he or she has to write 10 jokes to get one good one. It's called the rule of nines. I'm not sure how many songs you have to write to get a good one, but the lore that I read, and please tell me if this is correct, said that you had thrown away Walking on the Sun. You had actually thrown it away, and your drummer at the time rescues it from the trash, plays it, and he's like, "This is actually good, dude." Is that?
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if you ever saw the band. You were probably in college at this point, but Paul and I were in a band called Lackadaddy.
I like the name. I
Yeah.
never saw them. Damn it!
Yeah, and we were playing around San Jose, and it was more of like a Rage Against the Machine, Beastie Boys.
Are you serious?
I wasn't even playing guitar. I was just up front.
You were up front singing, not using your guitar,
right?
And rapping, singing and rapping.
Yeah, it was myself and the other guy in the band. It was like two rappers, kind of singing rapper people. I don't even know. It wasn't really rap. It was like, I don't know. It was more like screaming.
Yeah, got it. Like Rage.
Yeah. And so I wrote Walking on the Sun and I brought it to the band and they hated it. They're like, this is not, it wasn't hard enough, you know? I mean, the message was there, you know, and the angst and everything was there, you know, it was like sort of a battle cry sort of song and a anti-racism song and we need to get our shit together song, you know? And it just wasn't, maybe the presentation of it was a little too light, you know, my demo was too light, but they didn't like it. And so it went into a box with the rest of unused songs that I had on cassettes. And so years later, when we started doing Smash Mouth, the drummer of that band said, "What's this?" You know, and I'm like, "That's just a box of shit songs," you know. He's, "Let me borrow it." And so he took it and he went through every single one and he came back and he's all, "Dude, let's do this." And so we took it to the producer and the producer said, "Yeah, that's the one."
I love that it's your authentic voice. I mean, that this is true for you. When you think about the commonality between these two songs, All Star and Walking on the Sun, they're both about goodness, about being kind. And I imagine that kind of led people to hate on it because it's like, hey, what's up with this positivity thing?
Uh-huh.
And it's almost like if you want to be liked, you have to be really hard and mean and not smile. And you guys were like out there with a levity and a sense of humor. And that's one of the things, and an intensity. I mean, there's an intensity, there's great musicianship, but there's levity and there's kindness. Is that kind of consistent with how you see the vibe?
Definitely. You know, it's like, I'm not saying that I don't write, you know, depressing, you know, songs about, you know, but I mean, the positivity thing, you know, thinly veiled with, you know, some real shit that's going on, you know, especially right now. Come on, you know.
Totally, we need it.
This is the weirdest year of our lives, I think, you know. And so, but I mean, why not have some positivity and like write some happy stuff, you know, but also being mindful and aware of and present about what is really happening and not just writing about it or like, you know, protesting about it or talking about it on social media or something, but maybe trying to do something in a little way, in all of our little ways to try to help, you know, be the greater, you know?
Yeah. I mean, music really can compel people to behave in a particular way. Is that consistent with your experience of music?
Totally. You know, I mean, I just mentioned Rage a minute ago. It's like, yeah, they were angry and here's what's happening and we're pissed, you know? Okay. Do you have a solution?
I like that.
You know, do you, you know, or do you just want everyone to be as pissed off as you? And I'm not saying anything bad about Rage at all. It's like, I mean,
totally. No, they've got a place.
Yeah. But you know, I couldn't walk away from a song I couldn't leave it at that. There'd have to be some sort of a solution of some sort, you know, I guess. And it even says in Walking on the Sun, it's like, hey, I know that this is just a song, but we need to talk about it. And here's what we need to do, you know? And if you don't, you basically
totally
you're in hell. You know?
So it's interesting. Mother Teresa, I hope I'm citing her correctly, once said something akin to, I will not attend a rally that is anti something, but I will attend a rally that is for something.
It's yeah, exactly.
And I think that's what you guys were about. And to the point about heartbreak, you wrote a few songs that to this day, if I listen to, I mean, I have to hold back the tears. But the one that just shatters me every freaking time is Waste.
Oh yeah.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. I mean, when you were asking me earlier what are some of my favorites, and that's a deep cut from, Astro Lounge, that's a tearjerker, you know.
Totally.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything positive about that song.
There is actually. There is the fact that you expressed it.
Right.
As a psychologist, I would say, hell yeah, because that needed to come out. And you didn't come up with a solution in that song. There's clearly, you were talking about, basically, you were mourning.
Yeah.
And wondering like how did you self-sabotage in this way is what I got.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of songs that had been written or started before Smash Mouth, that was kind of one of them, that had accumulated from a past relationship, where, it was just like, maybe I thought this was the perfect person, ended up not being that way. And I got a lot of songs out of it, and they just kind of kept going all through the Smash Mouth career, and until I finally met someone that was better than that.
Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier to me, you've been with Gina for many years now. It seems like it's going really well.
Yep.
So you write this song, and you sing the demo, and then the band comes together and deals with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine at times it changes from its original form that you created.
Yeah.
Did that happen, or was it fairly consistent, or what was that like?
It does. It's like, people come and, basically replace the parts that I played and add their thing to it. And most of the time it's better, and I'd normally let someone outside make that decision, like the producer or them themselves. It's like, fortunately, everyone involved in, the Smash Mouth lineup, the original Smash Mouth lineup, was always, they didn't go, hey, I want to inject my idea just because it's my idea. If it was better, it would stay. And if it wasn't, for the most part, they would go, I think I like the other way better. Let's just stick with that. So I was very fortunate to have, a group of guys that were, realistic about everything, And
it sounds like the chemistry was amazing. And it sounds like you kind of had all kind of either verbally or silently agreed to idea that the best idea wins.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing.
It was always like that, And so, yeah, I mean, the demos, like I said, though, like as far as like the structure of them and the arrangements and things like that, didn't change too much. They were pretty much the same as the way they were. But
so I'm going to pivot a little bit here. And actually, before I do, I'm going to just, since you're mentioning deep cuts, one of my favorite, possibly overlooked songs is I Just Want to See. I just think that is like one of the coolest songs. I know you and Paul wrote that together. Most of the songs were written pretty much by you, but that song just, oh man, it's like the best song to wake up to in the morning. But anyway, you get up on stage and it's no longer just you making a sound. It's actually happening. You had just been playing small gigs at Boswell or Britannia Arms or wherever. Mm-hmm. And now you're up in front of like people going bananas, berserk. You are like, you've gone from like local dude to like legit rock star. What in the world does that even feel like?
I mean, like I said, it's like, I don't know anyone who was ever prepared for it, and even if they said they were, they may not be telling the truth, because it's just a whole another, it's a whole new set of emotions that happen, there's you're emotional because you're like, wow, all this many people, it's not just a handful or a room full, it's like a stadium full or, an enormous room full of people are into what I've done or what I've created. And so there's that. And then there's a whole new set of feelings that, and emotions that come in that go along with success, where you start getting a little conceited and feeling a little stuck up. And we all went through a Rockstar phase where, it was an ugly thing. You thought, everyone owed you something.
Oof.
And it's just, it got dark, and sometimes, but it's just a whole another set of feelings that you're not prepared for and you don't know how to handle them.
Totally.
They're not, you're not equipped yet.
Yeah. There's no pamphlet. So now you're a rock star. Here's what to expect.
Yeah. Yeah. Just so you know, you're going to have friends now. A lot of them.
Lots of, no, actually, I want to know about that. People may be disingenuous and more in love with your status than you.
Right.
So
and you learn that people are inviting you over to their house for dinner because there's going to be about 20 family members there.
Dude.
Coincidentally,
just stopping by.
And their nephew is an aspiring, producer, and their niece is an aspiring pop star. And can you talk to them for 2 hours? And can you record them? And can you write songs with them? And can you give them advice? There's that kind of stuff. And then there's, whenever your, publishing deal starts coming to a close, all of a sudden a bunch of new friends pop into the place, like going, "Hey, I want to take you out to dinner." It's just hilarious. But those are things that you're not equipped with at first, and you hopefully quickly learn that, okay, this is a business. There's nothing wrong with it. It's
sure.
just it's a game.
Yep.
And you play it, and you try to play it to your advantage because that's what the person's doing across the table for you.
So I imagine there was a cynicism initially, but then you kind of were able to see it more from a kind of a zoomed out perspective, and like, hey, this is the business. This is how it works.
Yeah.
What was your takeaway from that? And it sounds like you're just from where you sit now.
Yeah, you learn a lot about people and how to read and how to judge character and who's sincere. Fortunately, over the years, it's like I have very close friends that are in the industry, and it's because we all understand where we are, how we got there, and what we need from each other in that relationship. And it's a business friendship relationship,
kind of has limits to the friendship, but
underneath
what's kind of covertly agreed upon in the so-called contract of friendship, so to speak, like the unwritten contract. It's like, we go to bat for each other.
It's just unsaid, and it's there, and you both know it, and that's it's kind of like a Hollywood relationship, I guess you would call it,
Totally.
And it's fine,
And you accept it for what it is. And I'm going to do a quick pivot back here from friendship to art. One of the things I've also appreciated about you, in addition to being kind of genre defying, you've kind of shapeshifted. You've taken on all kinds of cool stuff. You've gotten really into sound. You've gotten into writing for other people. This whole experience of being an artist has allowed you to wear a lot of different hats from where I sit. Is that true for you?
It's true. And over the years, I'll rewind a little bit. A long time ago, even in high school, my mom was way into the soundtracks of the films that were out at the time, like Out of Africa, and like a lot of whatever it was. And she got me into it because she would buy the soundtracks and we would listen to them, on vinyl. And she would always say, she's like, this is probably where you're going to go. You're probably going to do this someday. She's like, because I don't know about these songs and these rock bands you're in and blah, blah, blah. She's like, but it seems like that's more your thing. You're more interested in that, And so that always sat there. And so when Smash Mouth got, the music in Shrek and all that, I was I was bitten by that bug because it was the first time I was sitting in a movie theater and hearing something that I created put to picture. And I'm like, whoa, that totally changes everything, and I would listen to it with the sound off and have another song in my mind and be like, yeah, that doesn't fit, And so I got more into, that's later on. That's what I'm going to do. And so later on, sure enough, that's what I ended up doing. I scored a film called Valley of the Sun. And I was at that point, I'm like, that's what I want to do from now on. I want to create a mood for scenes, for pictures, you know? And so that's what I do now. You know, for the most part, I do either score film or write songs for scenes, or I do cues for, you know, things, or, you know, music for commercials, or, you know, just film and TV. That's what I like to do now. And Gina and I just started a company called the Music Branch that is basically going to encompass, it's almost like a record company for artists that do similar things, you know? And so now Gina and I have a thing together that we're really excited to get out there. And we just landed our first feature film.
Amazing.
Called Diary. It's out now. It's called Diary, and it's spelled Diery. It's an indie horror thriller.
I was guessing.
And it was so much fun because I wouldn't normally do dark music, but I ended up doing it, you know, and that was great. And then doing the cues for the Netflix stuff and the Kissing Booth stuff, and, you know, just other indie films. That's what we're doing now.
And it's great. You doubled down kind of when you decided to go with Smash Mouth and play in high school. I never would have guessed. Pretty much kind of a ska punk, distinctly California sound to me. Anyway, it was like amazing. How did you decide to double down? I mean, because there were so many genres that you were into. That must have felt like you were cutting off a lot of different types of music in some way.
That is just what happened when the band got together in the room. You know, it's like, those are all of our influences. You know, Paul Delisle's, you know, grew up on, you know, a lot of punk rock, and I grew up on, you know, reggae. I grew up on everything, but reggae was a big part of my, you know, from high school on, you know, that's when, remember Jeff Leiter?
I do.
Yeah, so I remember we'd sit in his car and do things, and he would always have this this live Yellow Man.
Oh, so good.
And we would just sit there and just listen to reggae, and I was like, man, this music makes me feel really, really good. I love this music. I'm into this music. Thank you for, you know, I always knew that it was a sort of music. I just didn't know exactly what it was and how spiritual it was, and, you know, and how just hypnotic it was, you know? Truly. And just how good it makes you feel when you listen to it. And so that was always something that was there. Steve Harwell, you know, he was into hip hop and rock. He was kind of like, he like me, but in a different way. He liked all kinds of music, but all kinds of different music. He was into, you know, hip hop, and he was also into Elvis Presley, you know, which is real. There's something very Americana about Steve that I really appreciate, and his sense of humor is amazing. His voice, my God, it's just entirely recognizable and amazing. Yeah. And then our drummer at the time was into metal, you know, and so when you put all those things together, you know, all those influences together, it just sort of came out sounding the way it did. And I wouldn't say it was like really ska punk, because, you know, ska punk to me was more like Fishbone. Yeah, or like, you know, Fishbone was a lot more like ska, you know. But I guess there was a Bad Brains influence. But like the ska punk thing that was happening at the time, we just fell into the category because no one knew how to pigeonhole us. They were like, well, I don't know what you're doing. It sounds like metal and reggae and Elvis and rapping. You know, I don't know what that is. So we just fell into that. We were never trying to be a ska punk thing. We just fell. That's awesome. You just went with what was in the room. It's almost like one of those cooking shows where you were given certain ingredients and was like, what are you going to make out of this? Exactly. Dude, that's awesome. So my man, you were talking about what it's like to sit in a movie theater, see your music, but you could just be, you know, going to a restaurant with your kids, or walking through a department store, and suddenly one of your songs shows up. Mm-hmm. What's that like? Sometimes, you know, it's weird. It's like a long time ago, it was like, oh my God. You know? And now it's like, oh my God. So you're tired of it. I'm not tired of it. I could never get tired. It's always really humbling, but it's just funny, it's funny because when I'm with my kids and we're in a restaurant or at Home Depot or shopping or something, and they just kind of like look at me like, Dad. I'm like, I swear to God, I didn't do this. I didn't tell them to put this on.
So, yeah. And what's it like, speaking of kids, like, what do you imagine it's like for your kids, knowing that their daddy is, a rock star and known?
I think that I can't tell if they, like these days, put it this way, a lot of their friends' parents are much more household name people.
Okay, got it.
You know what I mean? Like,
given where you live.
Yeah, everyone in Los Angeles is in the industry, and we just coincidentally happen to be friends with some people that are just like, like just superstars. And so what I do is nothing compared to what.
That makes sense. It's all relative.
Yeah. But it's still cool. It's like we're all in the same boat somewhere, but I think sometimes they like the music, which is really nice. It's like I did some work with Jonas Brothers, and I was just playing guitar on some stuff that they were working on out in Nashville, I guess. And right. One of the songwriters, a friend of mine, was writing with them. He's like, "Hey man, can you throw some guitar on this real quick?" And I'm like, "Sure." And basically while they're in the studio in Nashville, I'm at my studio in Los Angeles, and threw some guitar down on some Jonas Brothers songs and sent it back. And that just blew my kids' minds. That's like
superstardom.
That's insane. Same thing with Chainsmokers. Did some stuff with Chainsmokers.
Oh, they're great.
My kids really like them, and they, like when it comes to that stuff, they are just completely blown away. But most of the other stuff, like they'll hear a song in a movie and go, "Hey, is that you?" I'm like, "Yep." They're like, "Oh, cool, Dad. Right on, Dad."
That's awesome. So now your life has gotten much quieter, and I'm wondering, like, what is it like to go from like super, super active multi-city tour, tons of fans, just the rush of it all, and then you're in the afterword of that,
mm-hmm.
unless you decide to, bring something back up and go ballistic again. What's it like having that in your rear view mirror and not having it now?
It feels good. When the whole thing was happening, I remember feeling like I would rather be on the other end of the camera taking a picture of someone than I would rather be the subject. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And I've always been like that. I've always wanted to be in the back, So, to have that, I'm glad I did that. And I wouldn't trade it for the world, but I'm glad that part of it's over. I like to be able to, not be recognized or bothered, and I was never at the level of like Steve, where he couldn't go anywhere without somebody, whether they loved or hate him, he couldn't go anywhere without being bothered. And he's the kind of person that likes that, you know what I mean? And so I was never into it. And so I was very glad to be able to, just step out of that and step into a world where it's like, I'd rather be behind the scenes. I'd rather be in a studio than on a stage. And I'd rather be, making the music as opposed to like performing it, So I hope that answered your question.
That answers perfectly. You're more introverted and Steve's far more extroverted. So yeah. Fortunately, he's recognized everywhere and that works for him. And fortunately for you, you got to play a massive part and really give it your best without any of the extroverted needs.
Right.
Like you can go to Adelita's and have yourself a nice taco and not
right.
worry about somebody coming over and like, "Hey man, you're that Smash Mouth guy."
He always put it in a great way. He's like, you build the car and I'll drive it. And I'm like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to build this car and you just take it for a spin and see what happens.
And what I'm having trouble reconciling is the desire to be a rock star as a kid, dancing around with the tennis racket, playing and dreaming about it, while simultaneously being quite introverted. I'm having trouble reconciling those two things.
It's a be careful of what you ask for situation. Like I said, it's like you're just no one can be prepared for the tidal wave of craziness that happens along with all that stuff. It's just insane. So
that's wonderful. Well, Greg, I am so grateful for you taking time, sharing your experiences, your wisdom, your psychological takes on what is it all like. What's it been like in so many levels as a performer, as a writer, and now, of course, as someone who engages in art behind the scenes, creating what I would call brilliant music. If you haven't listened to Greg Camp's music, his soundtrack music is incredible. So check it out.
Thank you so much for having me on here. And feel free to look me up on Instagram. That's pretty much the only social media I do. So
good to know.
There's one that's in Greg_Camp_music. And then I do have another one called Colin Sick, if you can find that. And you can also follow us around. My family and I are traveling the country in and out of doctor's visits. We have a thing called, what is it called? Camp Gypsy Tour. And that's on Instagram. And we're just taking pictures of all the different places that we visit. And that's what we're doing. We're just driving around the country.
It's awesome, Greg.
Yeah.
So, Greg, thanks again for taking time to meet with me. Loved talking with you. It's so great to catch up.
Yes. Adam, thanks for having me. And, I hope you and the family are doing well. I know you are, because we already discussed it, but I hope you continue to stay safe, and hope everyone out there stays away from this thing that's running around.
Right on. Me too. This is Dr. Adam Dorsey thanking you for listening to Super Psyched. If you know anyone who might like it or who might benefit from listening, share it. And if you like the episode, please hit subscribe.